The year is 1914. A gunshot echoes through Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, lies dead. This single act of violence ignites a powder keg, plunging Europe and the world into a conflict of unimaginable scale and ferocity, the First World War. What began as a localized dispute quickly escalated into a global conflagration, fueled by a complex web of alliances, deep-seated rivalries, and an insatiable hunger for power. The world watched in horror as the old order crumbled, consumed by the flames of war. This was a war unlike any other, a horrific clash of empires and ideologies that would forever alter the course of human history. Millions would perish. Empires would fall. The world would never be the same. To understand the Great War, one must first delve into the years leading up to that fateful summer of 1914. Europe, brimming with industrial and military might, was a breeding ground for tension and mistrust. Alliances, forged for security, had become a recipe for disaster. Nationalism surged, fostering competition and suspicion. Imperialism pitted European powers against each other. Militarism created an atmosphere of fear and paranoia. These factors awaited a single spark to ignite the inferno. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand provided that spark. The gears of war began to turn, pulling nations into the abyss. The early days of the war were marked by a sense of naive optimism. Many believed it would be a short and decisive conflict, a war to end all wars. They were tragically mistaken. The romantic notions of valor and glory quickly evaporated in the face of the grim reality of trench warfare. On the Western Front, a sprawling network of trenches stretched for hundreds of miles, from the English Channel to the Swiss border. Here, millions of soldiers faced unimaginable horrors. The Battle of the Somme, launched in the summer of 1916, epitomized the brutality of trench warfare. On the first day alone, the British Army suffered nearly 60,000 casualties, making it the bloodiest day in British military history. The Battle of Verdun, another protracted and bloody engagement, saw both sides locked in a relentless struggle for every inch of ground. Millions of men fought and died in these battles, their sacrifices etched into the mud and blood-soaked earth. The trenches became a nightmarish world of their own, a labyrinth of death, disease, and despair. World War I witnessed an unprecedented surge in technological advancements, forever changing the face of warfare. The machine gun, a weapon of terrifying efficiency, transformed battlefields into killing fields. Tanks, lumbering behemoths of steel, offered a new form of mobile firepower, albeit at a terrible cost in human life. Airplanes, once a novelty, took to the skies as instruments of war, first for reconnaissance and later for aerial combat. Chemical warfare, a horrifying new development, unleashed toxic gases that choked and burned their victims. Mustard gas, chlorine and phosgene became instruments of terror, leaving behind a legacy of suffering and death. These technological advancements, while impressive in their ingenuity, served only to amplify the horrors of war. Scars on the soul, the human toll of the Great War. The human cost of World War I was staggering. Over 16 million soldiers and civilians perished. Millions more were wounded, many carrying scars for life. The war left an entire generation shattered. Shell shock became a common ailment. Men returned, haunted by the horrors. The war's impact extended beyond the battlefield. Families were torn apart, economies shattered. The world mourned the loss of a generation. Nurses and medical personnel were crucial. The war had a profound impact on women. Women took on new roles in society. Their contributions challenged traditional gender roles. A fragile peace, the treaty and its aftermath. After 4 long years of bloodshed, the guns finally fell silent on November 11, 1918. The world, weary of war, rejoiced at the news of peace. But the peace that emerged from the ashes of the Great War was a fragile one. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, officially ended the war but sowed the seeds of future conflict. The treaty, driven by a desire for retribution, imposed harsh penalties on Germany, including massive reparations payments, territorial losses, and strict limitations on its military. These punitive measures, while understandable in the aftermath of such a devastating war, bred resentment and instability in Germany, creating fertile ground for extremist ideologies to flourish. The Treaty of Versailles also redrew the map of Europe, creating new nations and igniting new conflicts. The Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman and Russian empires, once dominant forces on the world stage, were swept away, replaced by a patchwork of new and unstable states. The world, exhausted but forever changed, entered a new era, one marked by the legacy of the Great War. The world reshaped lasting impacts of the Great War. World War I was a watershed moment, shattering the old order and ushering in a new era. Its impact on the 20th century and beyond cannot be overstated. The war accelerated new technologies and reshaped global power. It led to the creation of the League of Nations, aiming to prevent future wars. Though unsuccessful, it laid the groundwork for the United Nations. The war profoundly impacted art, literature, and culture. Writers and artists, scarred by their experiences, reflected the deep psychological scars left by the war. Their works often characterized by disillusionment and loss. The Great War shaped the political, social, and cultural landscape of the world. It remains a stark reminder of the human capacity for both good and evil, a cautionary tale about nationalism, militarism, and failed diplomacy. As we remember those who perished, let us strive for a more peaceful world. Conclusions. Echoes of the past, lessons for the future. The First World War stands as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the devastating consequences of unchecked ambition and aggression. It is a story of courage and sacrifice, of unimaginable suffering and enduring hope. Though the guns have long fallen silent, the echoes of the Great War continue to reverberate through time. The lessons learned from this conflict, etched in the blood and sacrifice of millions, remain as relevant today as they were a century ago. As we navigate the complexities of the 21st century, let us remember the words of the poet Wilfred Owen, who wrote, "Amidst the horrors of the trenches, my subject is war, and the pity of war. The poetry is in the pity. Let us strive to build a world where such pity is no longer necessary, a world where dialogue and diplomacy triumph over violence and destruction. Let us honor the memory of those who perished in the Great War by working tirelessly for a future free from the scourge of war.